Today on the Unmonetized Says podcast, we'll be discussing if unmonetized videos on YouTube perform better or worse than monetized videos and other stuff too, so go ahead and stick around. I want to talk about and explore the question, does shutting monetization off on a video on YouTube harm the performance? This is something that I hear all the time. Videos that are not monetized are going to do worse. If you shut off monetization on your channel, it is going to harm your channel. This podcast, this channel has been unmonetized, at least the new episodes have been non-monetized since the 20th of August, 2023. So I have a bit of information, I have a bit of data to explore here, and that's what we're going to do. The first episode that I left unmonetized was BSP-379, and that was the 20th of August, 2023, so it has been 5 months so far. We're not going to look at the revenue that I've earned. We'll do that after I've been value for 1 year, but I did want to see what the impressions, what the views, and what the general performance of the videos were following this change. First, let's look at the channel-wide impressions for the 5 months prior to shutting off monetization, and then the impressions following that decision. For the 5 months prior, we had 696,000 impressions, and this was with 16 videos published, I believe, 15 episodes, and then following the decision, with 17 new episodes published without monetization engaged, I received 709,000 impressions. So channel-wide, there was no real shift. It seems about on par. However, the channel-wide impressions includes monetized and unmonetized videos. There's no separation there. In order to correct for that, I am comparing my latest 2 episodes, which are not monetized, against the performance of older videos, and the time frame that I'm comparing are since publication, and what that means is it's going to compare the exact same time frame. So for my latest episode, it will be the first 7 days of either video. For my second latest episode, it will be the first 14 days. I'm just going to scroll through these really quick to save some time, but when I compare BSP-375 against older episodes, in every single case, 375 got significantly more impressions than the older episode, which was monetized. In most cases, it was about 8,000 impressions more than the older episodes. So in that instance, it looks as though a non-monetized video is actually doing better. But maybe that's an outlier. So when we go to BSP 374, again, we do see a higher impression number compared to the older actual monetized episode. This ranges from 3,000 to 5,000 more impressions. So again, it looks like the modern non-monetized episode gets more impressions, at least during that initial push, those initial 7 to 14 days. But if we look at overall views for the video and ignore the impressions and distribution, it looks as though my older videos that were monetized have a higher view count, ranging from 1,700 to 2,000, while the modern episodes, which are unmonetized, hover around 1,000 to 1,200. So it seems as though views have dropped. It's hard to identify what caused that. It may be my episodes have just gotten worse. It may be people have lost interest, or maybe there is something underlying this issue because I do have my videos not monetized. So my thought was, okay, maybe the initial push is similar, but after a couple of days, then the impressions drop off, then the views drop off, and the non-monetized video just dies on the vine, while the monetized videos continue to get pushed. To explore that idea, I pulled the last 90-day performance for BSP episode 354 through 363, and that is what we're going to go through. This may be dull, but I find it very interesting. All of this data is going to range from the 23rd of October through the 20th of January, so it is a 90-day period. All of the episodes prior to 359 were monetized. 359 onward were non-monetized. BSP-354 got 825 impressions, 355, 1,100 impressions, 356 got 1,700 impressions, 357, 1,700, 358, 1,200. Those were all monetized videos. Now the first unmonetized video, 1,200 impressions, then 1,800 impressions, 2,100 impressions, 2,200 impressions, and 3,200 impressions over the last 90 days. So if we look at the average impressions for the last 5 monetized videos against the first 5 unmonetized videos over the last 90 days, monetized videos got an average number of impressions of 1,300, while unmonetized got 2,100. So the unmonetized videos got more distribution. So I don't see any evidence, at least over the last 4 months, that there is any direct negative impact on video performance by marking your videos as unmonetized. And this is something that I was told. If you make your videos not monetized, your channel will do worse. The videos will do worse. I see no evidence of that based on the last 4 months. I think the idea that unmonetized videos are going to perform worse than monetized videos is likely due to the fact that demonetized videos may actually do worse. And there's a big difference, in my opinion, from unmonetized and demonetized. An unmonetized video is the creator making the decision. I do not want ads turned on this video, while demonetized videos are forced unmonetization, and it is typically done because a video violates YouTube's ad policy. So there's a conflation between unmonetized and demonetized. And when a video is demonetized, there may be some edgy content, which will also contribute to the fact that it may get limited distribution. So those are my findings. That is the data, and that is the conclusion that I have come to with my 4 months of data. We will revisit this in maybe another 8 months. Once we hit 1 year on the value for value model, once we have 1 year of episodes which do not have monetization engaged, I imagine YouTube is happy with how this channel is going because they are getting a lot more money than they would on the ads. Because people are returning the value through YouTube, YouTube earns a lot more from a single super thanks than they would through 1,000 views. So I imagine they are thrilled with how things are going. I did realize something. I learned something very important through all of this analysis. My podcast episodes absolutely suck in terms of evergreen content and click-through rates. Going back to episodes that are more than a couple of weeks old, we're getting a 1%, 2% click-through rate. In some instances, it was 0.8%. This is not acceptable. So I need to come up with some kind of solution to this. I need to find a way to improve this. Maybe it's better thumbnails. I thought my thumbnails were pretty decent for this podcast. Apparently not. Maybe I need to reassess the titles. Again, I thought my titles were pretty good, pretty descriptive. I guess they're not hyperbolic enough, but looking at the data for videos that weren't just published this week, it's grim. It's very grim. I would love to know your thoughts on all of this because this has been a fascinating experience for me, a fascinating experiment, and I loved digging into this information and data and sharing it with you. I'd love to hear what you think of this if you have a different experience. If you think my conclusion and analysis is right, let me know. Now let's go ahead and jump to what you had to say, and the first comment comes from Gamer Today. He says, "What's your real job? ? I wondered for years." Gamer Today, thank you very much for the question and comment. I really do appreciate it. I'm not going to tell you the company that I work for. I'm not going to tell you the exact title of my job, but what I do, most people would classify as accounting. But I think I would be more along the lines of budgetary analysis. Look out, it's getting sexy up in here. I download data sets, I put them in Excel, and I run analysis on them. I look at the numbers, I make sure everything is within budget. I do projections. How long will this money last? I look at invoices, I reconcile them to make sure everything is accurate, and that's pretty much it. I live in Excel, and I love Excel. If you've ever wondered why I am the way that I am, it's because I spend all day in Excel, and I love it. That is why I am the way that I am. I am a budget analyst, and I am fine with that. What has happened? The 14-year-old me wants to come into the future and beat the crap out of me, because no, I never in my life growing up thought, yeah, budget analyst, he'll love spending all day in Excel and running analysis and doing projections. What a dweeb. I watched Ghostbusters, and I realized I am Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters. I am Rick Moranis. Oh, I found this great sale on this item. Let me tell you about it. Oh, I saved money doing this one thing. Let me tell you about it. I am having a crisis right now. This is horrifying. That's all that I'm going to share about my job. Accountant, as most people would call it. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next one. This comes from Typical Books. They say, great overview of the RSS import tool. I used it for the horror film podcast that I co-host, and I found the same things. In addition, if I had a wish list for YouTube, it would be to not have just a static image as the video. For all the branding as a podcast, it is still a video with a video track that is a static image that could burn into some television sets. I think this is a bad move, and the image should swap between an image and text or fade in and out at least. Typical Books, thank you very much for the comment. That is a fantastic point that I had not even considered. The fact that these are hour-long episodes and it's just going to have a static image up on screen, that may cause an issue for people, especially if they have the podcast pulled up and they're not doing anything else. If somebody is listening in the YouTube Music app, it shouldn't be a problem because you will be able to move out of the app and do other stuff. If you are listening in a browser, you can open up another tab and continue listening while that plays in the background. But if you're listening to a podcast with a static image on your television, I don't think there's a workaround. I have not seen a way to have picture-in-picture. I have not seen a way to jump out of the YouTube app while the video continues to play. Maybe they'll roll out a YouTube podcast, or I guess it would be the YouTube Music app for the television, and then you may have that capability. But I think your suggestions are great. Have the image fade in and out to avoid that. Maybe have a couple of images that will slide through like a slideshow. Maybe if you have chapter markers with images, you could have those pop up as the chapters come up. Or I think it would be great if they had some kind of visualizer of the audio, like a typical visualizer where you have the full frequency range, kind of like an old stereo system. I think that would look really cool and add some nice dynamic, so it's a lot more interesting than, here's a static image, look at this, nothing is happening. There have been quite a few podcasts over the years that have had interesting ways to combat this or overcome this issue. I don't think it's that they were trying to overcome screen burn-in, but the one that comes to mind is watchfinder.co.uk. They were publishing audio-only podcasts to their YouTube channel, and they had two people on. They would have different images of microphones for each of the hosts they would switch between. When they were talking about a watch, they would throw up some images of the watch. It was a great way to have an audio-first and audio-only podcast on YouTube where the visuals actually added context, they added value, and on top of that, it also solved the issue of potential screen burn-in. Of course, that does create a lot more work for the podcast producer because now they would have to actually produce a video as opposed to just having the artwork that gets uploaded. So I still think your solutions are great. I think YouTube ought to address this. I am assuming YouTube just thinks people aren't going to be sitting there with a static image up on the screen for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I'm guessing they have data, maybe they know, or maybe they're assuming that people will start a video, a podcast with that static image, and then go do something else. They'll pop up another tab, they'll go to a different app. But if they are watching on TV, I don't know many people who listen to podcasts that don't have visual components on their TV. Maybe there are some out there, but that is an instance where that could potentially be an issue. Great points that I had not considered. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Next, we have a comment from Greg LG. He says, I adjust the old saying, buy your second house first to buy your second insert electronics first. Or, why is there never funds to buy the right gear at the beginning, but there's always funds to buy gear twice? Greg, thank you very much for the comment. I think that is a fantastic adaptation of buy your second house first, and in most cases, I think that does hold true. If we're talking about a cell phone, if we're talking about a computer, if we're talking about general tech that somebody knows they're going to use, I absolutely agree. Buy something right, buy something of high quality that is going to treat you well for years, as opposed to a low quality item that's just more affordable, that is going to fall apart, that you will have to replace. But the reason that I want to push back on you a little bit is if somebody is getting into a creative endeavor, if somebody is getting into a hobby, I don't necessarily think it's the best course of action for them to go out and buy the highest end gear that's available, to buy the highest and most expensive gear that they can afford. Because what happens if they get that equipment and then they jump into the hobby only to realize they hate it? Yes, I suppose they could turn around and sell that gear, but they're going to lose a bit of money. I think the better course of action would be to either rent gear if that's possible, or buy some affordable gear to see if you enjoy it. For a lot of people, when they ask me what gear they should start with for podcasting or YouTube, I am recommending affordable gear like the Behringer XM8500 and a UM2, or maybe the Samson Q2U, maybe the Elgato Wave 3, which are all between $50 to $120. I think that's an acceptable entry point to try out a hobby to see if you like it and you don't have too much money sunk in. Rather than going out and saying, yes, buy the SM7B, buy a SSL 2 Plus, buy a cloud lifter, buy a $150 boom arm, and then get some lighting and some cameras. Just spend $100 as opposed to $1,000 to see if you like it. Then if you do enjoy it, after 6 months, after you've been doing it for a while, then consider upgrading. Maybe have a goal that you have. Maybe have an accomplishment that you want to get to prior to upgrading. Once I release 100 episodes, then I'll go out and buy the microphone that I want, the setup that I want, the camera that I want, the light that I want, as opposed to I'm going to buy that final gear before I even know if I like it. So that's the only reason I'm pushing back. I don't necessarily think it's the right course of action to jump in the deep end right away. I think sometimes it's smart to dip your toe in the water with some affordable stuff to see if you enjoy it before dropping hundreds or thousands on the gear. Even though technically, yes, you could sell that gear if you end up not liking it. But $100 is a lot better than $1,000. Thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate it. I still think you're right in the vast majority of cases. Next, we have a What You Had to Say, but it is a video from SP. Take it away, SP.
Hey, Bandrew, it's SP. I was out walking Cooper listening to latest BSP. I heard you selling gear on eBay. One of the reasons I slowed down on that last year was because I think eBay is required to turn in to the IRS any profits over $600 per year. So I don't know if that's in your consideration or not that could add up with all the gear that you want to sell potentially. Anyway, catch you later. Thanks for the BSP. Bye.
Thank you very much for the video feedback, SP. I absolutely love it. I love the fact that there is video coming in that is not just Ask Bandrew. If anybody wants to share feedback via video, I wholeheartedly accept that. I endorse that. I love it. If you don't know, SP is the co-host of Better Podcasting, a great show about podcasting and getting better at podcasting. BetterPodcasting.com. Go check it out. With the plug for SP out of the way, let's dive into this. First off, thank you for the heads up here about eBay having to send the IRS a 1099, a 1040, whatever it is, if you make sales in excess of $600. I understand that is going to be sent to the IRS, but this isn't a huge concern for me. The reason being, first off, this is not financial advice. I am not a tax expert. If you want to know more about this, go talk to your own tax guy. This is my interpretation of it, and I have another 12 months to sort it out and get it figured out. But I do not plan on selling any audio gear. I was joking about wanting to clear out this room. Pretty much everything that I have sold so far has been personal items, and going forward, that is the plan. The vast majority of what I'm going to be selling is personal stuff that I bought with my post-tax dollars. And the fact that I said post-tax dollars, that is incredibly important, because if I take 20 post-tax dollars and go buy a $20 DVD, then I turn around a couple years later and sell it for $5, I should not need to pay taxes on that $5. If I take my 20 post-tax dollars and buy a $20 DVD, turn around a couple years later and sell it for $50, I would have to pay taxes on that capital gains, on that $30 profit that I made. Luckily for me, that has never happened. I have not turned a profit on a single item that I have sold. In every single instance, I have sold an item at a significant loss. So I should not theoretically have to pay taxes on that income. Although I also need to point out, even though it is a significant loss, I cannot write off those losses. It just means I don't have to pay taxes on that income. But on the other hand, if I did buy a $500 microphone and then write that off as a business expense, then I turn around and sell that on eBay, regardless of if I make a profit or a loss on that, I do need to pay taxes on that income, because essentially that $500 write-off meant that I bought that with pre-tax dollars. Then once I sell it, now I need to pay taxes on that income because now it is taxable. It now becomes post-tax dollars. But again, as I said, I have another 12 months to sort this out and get this all figured out. But I will be paying taxes on my FY24 for selling stuff on eBay, although it's very minimal what I'm going to be selling that had been a business expense. That is my take on the situation. I really look forward to digging into this over the next year and understanding the tax code a little bit better. What is taxable? What is not taxable? What is a write-off? What is not? Super fun to dig into that. Again, if you've ever wondered why I am the way that I am, this is why. I am interested in this slightly. But do not take any of this as tax advice. Go talk to your Turbo HR block people. Talk to them for your tax advice. This is not tax advice. The IRS is going to get their money one way or another, and I will happily write them their check. Here's your check, IRS. Here is all my money. Enjoy it. Spend it wisely. That's an oxymoron. Now let's jump to the value for value section of this show, because this is a value for value show. What that means is I don't put any ads on this show. I don't put anything behind a paywall. I just try to offer as much value as I can. And if you get any value out of this show, you send that value back in whatever format you want, whether it be time, talent, treasure, and you get to quantify that value as well. Was it $1, $5, $25, $10 million? Was it a thumbnail value? You tell me. Not like a physical thumbnail, but like a YouTube thumbnail. Is that what it was? I don't know. You get to do that. How exciting is that? We have one donation this week from the benefactor of the show, TechMed Rainer Richter, although I was corrected in the comments saying it's not Rainer, it's Reiner. Is it Reiner or is it Rainer? Reiner or Rainer, let me know. Have I been mispronouncing your name this entire time? If so, I apologize. Rainer or Reiner. He sent in €25 and said Donka. Rainer or Reiner, thank you again so much for your continued support of this show. It really does mean the world to me. I'm so happy that you get value out of this show, and I deeply appreciate the financial support and all of the kind words you share, all the feedback you share. I also love hearing your comments on the gear that I review on Podcastage, hearing you share your opinions on the microphones, especially the more budget stuff. Hearing your takes on it is always super interesting, so thank you so much. Now we are jumping to my favorite part of the show, the Ask Bandrew segment. Welcome back to the Ask Bandrew segment, the segment where you ask me, Bandrew, and I attempt to answer you, commenteer, questioneer, mouseketeer. I don't know what you are, who you are, what you're about. You choose to be you. If you want to send in a question, go to askbandrew.com, askbandrew.com, askbandrew.com. The reason I say it 3 times is I heard somewhere you have to repeat a URL or anything 3 times for somebody to remember it. We have one email submission this week from Pags from MEI Studio, and he asks, for the non-demo segments on a mic review/history video, do you think that adding some low background music would make the video more annoying or more appealing? Thanks, Pags. Thank you, Pags, so much for the comment, for the email, and for the amazing content that you produce. If you don't know, Pags runs the channel MEI Studio. Fantastic history videos about microphones. Fantastic demonstrations of gear where he is so much more scientific and precise than I could ever hope to. I love his videos. They are so well produced. Go check it out, MEI Studio. But getting into the question, I think that adding a bed of music is fine for some types of content, but I think it's also quite counterproductive on other forms of content. For a microphone review, even if it's not during a demo segment, I think it would be distracting, and I think it might give people the wrong impression. I have gone to mic reviews and I've seen them using a microphone at the beginning of the video that they are reviewing, but there's a bed of music, and I just become infuriated and click off of the video. So if you're doing a microphone review, I would advocate against adding a bed of music, even though it's not during the actual demo segment. Because if you think about it, if you're using the mic you're reviewing the entire time, the entire video is the actual demo. It may be beneficial to add a separate music test or music bed test, because I know a lot of people do use beds of music for their live streams, for their podcasts, for their YouTube videos. And hearing how the microphone sounds on top of that bed of music may be a good data point for them. It may be helpful. But as far as adding that under the entire microphone review or during the non-demo segments, I would say maybe not. For a microphone history video, I think that's a different story, and I think that would be more acceptable to have a bed of music under the non-demo segments, because if you're doing a history video, chances are it's not going to be a microphone that's in current production. People are not going to be going saying, I need to hear how this sounds to make an informed purchasing decision. They are going to learn about the microphone, so they don't necessarily need to listen critically for as long as possible. They're still going to be able to enjoy that intro and outro and the non-demo segments with that bed of music, because you're still sharing valuable information with them. Then you get to the demo section, you shut off the background music, you do your awesome scientific, precise, exact demos that you do. Then you turn the background music back on. I would advocate for being very deliberate with the background music, because in many cases, when I hear background music and a music bed, it seems inappropriate or it seems to mismatch what's going on in the video. People just aren't great at selecting music that fits the vibe of the video or the topic of the video. So if you are going to be adding a bit of music, just be very deliberate and selective because it can elevate a video, but if the selection is done poorly, I think it can detract quite a lot, even if it's not destroying a demo. Poor music choice will ruin a movie, just like great music choice can make a movie. Remove the score from any movie and a moving scene in most cases is gonna fall flat. That music is so incredibly important. Or take that same moving scene, the scene that just moves you deeply and emotionally, and then put Benny Hill under it. It's gonna fall apart. It's not going to be effective. I think the same thing holds true for YouTube videos and streams. People just don't take as much care with their selection. So that's just my recommendation. Be very selective with what you do, what you choose to use for the history, because yes, it can absolutely elevate a video to a new level. It can have emotional cues if you want to do that. But if you're doing a soft-spoken history video and you have Cannibal Corpse playing in the background, it's not going to fit. It's going to detract from the video. It's going to be a distraction. So use your music to elevate the video as opposed to just having a music bed for the sake of having a music bed. But you are really smart. I know you understand all of this. I'm just sharing this in case there's somebody else out there who may benefit from me just going through this entire thought process. Pags, thank you very much for the question. That is fantastic. I really appreciate the submission. And that is going to wrap up this week's episode of the BSP. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you. I love you from the bottom of my heart. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye. Whoa, whoa, boop.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.